Welcome to the BCM podcast. I am today's host, Michael Searle. I'm here by myself. I'm just going to talk with myself. Oh, wait. Who is that? We have Brad Swail at the bottom, Charles Blain in the top left. Gentlemen, how are we?
I'm so good. Doing real good. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it.
Anytime. All right. Well, you know the business. You're muted, dude.
You're an asshole.
Oh, a curse word 5 minutes in the show.
I said I was doing well before Brad got here, but you didn't hear that because Brad had me muted, but go ahead.
Yeah. Great to hear that. We got an exciting show today. Do the thing, like, subscribe, share with friends. Today we have a very special guest, a local, currently Austin gentleman who's on the other side of the political spectrum of the three of us, I would say, Mr. Jack Craver. How are we, Jack?
Good. Thank you, gentlemen.
What's up, Jack?
So I'm going to just give you a brief background on Jack. Jack and I have known each other for a long time, back from our City Hall days at Austin City Hall. He used to report on City Council. I used to do things he didn't like at City Council, and we'd talk about him. I think, while we disagree on a lot of things, we've always been able to have good conversations, heated conversations. And I thought that having you on the show would make for a super interesting dynamic. We're not going to, because there's three kind of varying degrees of conservatives here, we're not going to team up on you, but Jack was a former reporter for Austin Monitor. Is that correct? And then you started the Austin Politics newsletter, which is a daily newsletter with everything that's happening at Austin City Hall. And it has grown significantly, I think, from when you started. I think I was one of your first subscribers, but tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about APN and that journey from reporter for the Monitor to being on your own.
You were one of my first subscribers, Michael, which is why, despite your best efforts, I love you no matter what. I moved to Austin 10 years ago. My wife got a job here. We'd been living in France teaching English, and she got a job in Austin, and we came here, and I just started freelancing for the Austin Monitor and doing a lot of freelancing for other publications. I was doing corporate copywriting, just that lifestyle. And then, but through my freelancing at the Monitor covering City Hall, I developed a sincere interest in City Hall and launched the newsletter in January of 2019. And so it's been over 6 years now, and it has grown. Thank you. And it's now my principal source of income. That's the story.
That's the dream.
Sorry, have you been doing daily since launch?
Yeah, well, it's actually 4 times a week now. I used to do every weekday, and now I do Monday through Thursday.
That's still a heavy lift.
Yeah,
that's cool.
No, that's I was going to ask you if you'd share your subscriber count with us, but I know that's a no. But
that's fine. It's fine. So I have paid subscribers, and then I have people unpaid subscribers who get a sample of the newsletter. And the paid subscribers is about 800, and then I have about an equal number of unpaid subscribers.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
just living the dream. So anybody out there who's writing about city politics in their city, maybe it's Philadelphia, maybe it's Houston, there is an opportunity for you, and he has written the book. Speaking of a book, I'm curious, one of our hosts today is writing a book. Have you thought about writing a book about your experience at City Hall and all the shenanigans and players, and has that ever crossed your mind?
Sure. I'm actually right now, forever, it's just sort of been a late night fun. I've been writing a novel based on my experiences at City Hall. I don't know if that'll ever get published. In terms of a nonfiction book, that's something to consider, but I haven't put pen to paper.
Jack, you have to publish that book. There's no choice. You've now told the public knows. We're all going to be waiting for it. You have to publish that book. Are you the protagonist, or is it more, do you have is it someone else? Like, is it, I don't know, some handsome bald guy is the main guy?
Well, actually, the working title of the book was Operative, and it was supposed to, the protagonist is supposed to be a grizzled municipal political operative. But so not
So
me.
it's Michael.
Right, yeah. A grizzled anarcho-capitalist political operative in Austin.
That does not sound like me at all.
Um, yeah, no, I should, it is funny because look, even if you don't have aspirations, or, even if you don't get a major publisher to put it into print these days, if you write something that a few hundred people are willing to read, you just put it online, and so there's always the opportunity for that.
Well,
Yeah.
you already got a built-in audience that is shown interest in that type of stuff. So you're starting off with a good platform for sure.
It would just be, are you willing to share the salacious details in text?
The funny thing is, Austin doesn't have that many salacious details, right? This isn't Chicago.
Yes, they
It's
do.
not,
Come on.
like, there are shenanigans, but they're so it's pussy ass shit compared to big city shenanigans. And that's been one of my big gripes about covering city politics here, is it really is not. You don't have any of that old school machine politics, ward bosses, the unions, all that stuff. It's honestly pretty clean cut. And that's not to say there's plenty of bullshit that some of which Michael and I agree on. But it's out in the open. It's not like, paying off contractors to pave the street with, with some bullshit pavement. And sorry.
There's one particular instance that I would dispute is not a shakedown, and we've talked about it, and we don't need to get into it, but I think there's some interesting stuff there. But
you think the Workers' Project?
Yeah, the Workers' Defense Project shook down city council members and has grown into an organization that used to have 2 employees to one that has charters in every major city in Texas, and they represent construction workers. Where is their money coming from to do that? Well, it started with Austin Community College contract, and then it grew to a city council member and now a sitting member of Congress who helped them develop revenue streams significant enough to grow. And I think there's a story there, but to my best efforts, nobody in Austin press has ever picked it up.
I think that the Workers' Defense Project, it depends what. I don't think on its face what it does is shady. Now, if behind the scenes, people at Workers' Defense are taking cuts of contracts and pocketing money, then that's another story. But I think this comes down to a difference of opinion about the value of the work they do, and whether they're actually doing what the work that they say they do.
Maybe. So for the guys that don't know what we're talking about, Workers' Defense Project has a lot of lucrative on-site construction monitoring projects with the city for city capital projects such as convention center expansions, Project Connect, the mobility bond, $720 million in road projects or whatever they're supposed to spend it on. And I view it as they use their political power to require, as a means of getting the votes to put those things in place, they use their political power to extract those contracts. Jack views it as what I hear you're saying, you tell me if I'm wrong, the work they're doing is so valuable that they should get a portion of the money allocated for those capital projects to make sure that the workers' standards are up to snuff.
I have not examined any of Workers' Defense Project. I have not really looked into what they do. I don't really know what they do on a construction site, but the idea of of governments requiring certain safety standards and requiring, as part of a public contract, worker monitoring, that doesn't offend me on its face.
And
Well,
why?
there's also the allegations of a sitting council person like getting drunk and getting naked on a staffer's couch, and like just getting wasted all the time, like having her staffers drive her places, and being a real stand-up lady. That sounds like shenanigans to me, maybe, and also like not being at council meetings and the mayor texting her while her camera's off on Zoom, like, "Hey, are you there?" Like while her constituents are trying to talk to her. That sounds like shenanigans.
Sure. I think let's talk about it, right? You're talking about Councilmember Natasha Harper Madison. Grace Reeder from KXAN has done what I thought was very fair reporting on the council members' absence from a lot of meetings. The council member, she took a leave of absence for mental health. I think it's very hard for me as a journalist when there's talk about mental health treatment, substance abuse treatment, to decide at what point, right? At what point, how much reporting there should be on that subject, because I do think the public has a right to know if somebody's personal demons are preventing them from doing their job. I think that's totally fair. I don't, you draw a line somewhere. I don't know where that line is. If somebody sent me information about a council member having a substance abuse problem, I wouldn't necessarily report that unless I thought that it was clearly impacting their work, right? And so it's shades of gray. It's not black and white.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the substance and how much of a problem it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What are they doing? I mean, are they just smoking J's at night to go to sleep, or taking a little gummy here and there, becoming the ire of Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick? Or are they like showing up to work drunk?
Wait, what's the reference to Dan Patrick?
Dan Patrick's SP3 trying to, kill all the THC.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Well, he's on a moral escapade to get THC out of Texas with Senate Bill 3. And we had on an Austin-based, what are they, producer? Manufacturer of gummies. And
yeah, I haven't listened to that. I have been interested in covering that story. I mean, it's amazing. But I'm a longtime marijuana user. I support legalization, and I live down in South Austin, down on Manchac, right next to Quacks, is what initially it was like I thought it was just sort of a CBD coffee shop, like, and CBD, like, I don't give a shit about that. Like, that's no fun. But now it's like, I walked in, it's like an Amsterdam style, like, coffee shop. People are doing bong rips and smoking blunts, and like, it's just crazy. Like, it's so funny that it's technically not legal in Texas, but it's like, I mean, there's a shop on Congress Avenue a few blocks from the Capitol too. I walked in there, and it's like, there's some academic difference between whatever they're selling and supposedly real weed, but I don't know. I mean, it's weed to me.
Yeah, I had a similar experience in Pflugerville, of all places. Went to a meeting with someone, and they're like, "Meet me at this coffee shop." I walked in, and it was like walking into a smoke shop.
Right.
I was like,
right.
What's going on here?
Yeah, it's ironic because it's technically weed is not legal in Texas, and yet it seems like this is much less regulated than the places where it is legal.
Yeah, which is Dan Patrick. Why Dan Patrick is on one about this.
Yeah,
so is he seeking, if Dan Patrick, if this bill passes, are you saying like those shops will probably be shut down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Well, I guess
and then since you said that on the show, he's going to be coming after you. There's going to be an undercover video of Dan Patrick knocking on your door. don't know if you've seen his undercover videos. He did one for the Texas Lotto courier plays. He's done it
undercover. I don't know why you keep calling them undercover videos. He's not undercover. He is himself. It is just recorded with a cell phone. That's like the only thing.
calls. Why do you have to like? This is for entertainment purposes. I can exaggerate all I want. I can call it. It's an undercover. All right. He doesn't even. He introduces himself as Daniel. Lieutenant Dan. All right. He does all sorts of they blur out faces. He wears a costume. Like, fuck you, Charles. All right.
He doesn't wear a costume. What do you mean? He wears his suit.
Okay, sorry. It's not an undercover video. It's just gonna be Dan Patrick is gonna come knock on your door, Jack. Maybe that's more entertaining for a show if I say that.
So I do want to get to some state stuff, but before we move on, so you had a big announcement in your recent APN newsletter. You're outie. Your wife can't take the heat anymore. You're going to Philadelphia. So tell us what that's about. What are you going to miss about Austin? What are the things you felt like didn't get done in your time here that you hope the city council keeps working on? And then what are you excited about?
Yeah. So we're moving to the Philly area. It's
Philly area. Is it not Philadelphia proper? Is it like a suburb? Like you move into the West Lake of Philadelphia?
Not the West Lake. We're probably moving to a place called Ambler, which is former asbestos capital of America. So, friend of the show, Adam Lowy, probably has a lot of prospective clients up there.
Taking a dig.
But no, Ambler. It's a little borough outside of Philly. It's only 6,500 people, but it's very dense, and it's a nice mix of housing and a nice mix of housing and commerce, and it's got a rail link right into the city. So but yeah, my wife, she's just done with the summers. She's kind of, well, whatever. We're moving. We don't have to get into all of that.
Get into all what? What are you talking about? What could we not get into? What do you mean? Sounds like you're moving to your utopia. You said a lot of different housing. There's a train. Like that's why you're moving there, right?
Well, my wife wanted to leave Austin, and I was glad that we found a place that I am also excited to live. And so, yeah, Ambler, it is going to be a more walkable environment, a little more transit. I'm excited to explore Philadelphia, which is a city that's close to my heart. I never lived there, but my whole dad's side of the family comes from there back many generations. It's just politically a very interesting city. I think that it's interesting in that it's an old city, a classic kind of dense pre-automobile built city, but in contrast to sort of New York and San Francisco and Chicago, it doesn't have nearly the same allure and wealth and hype. And so it's kind of underappreciated, but not to the point that it's one of these cities that was completely emptied out during, over the last 50 years, like Detroit, Milwaukee.
I got bad news for you. Here's the Ambler website, and the first thing you see is a car show. And one of the cars is a PT Cruiser, a convertible PT Cruiser. That's disgusting. You can't move there, dude. Look at this. Ugh.
I like old cars, though.
You like convertible PT Cruisers?
No, he was talking about the cars in the car show behind it.
No, convertible PT Cruisers, you have to be like, I don't know, like a 55-year-old divorcee to have a convertible PT Cruiser. I
see. I have a Mazda 2, a lime green Mazda 2 with a big dent in the side, for which I got $3,600 because I didn't fix the dent.
Well, lime green's a good color. I just wanted to point, it's got a car show. I just want to warn you about that before you move. I know how you feel about cars.
I'm a car owner. I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't like cars, Jack. Stop it. and
I don't
people driving them
I
and
don't
using them.
I resent car dependence. I see cars are very much part of the mobility mix for me and for every city in this country.
That's a very diplomatic way to put it. Brad's
Also,
trying to pick a fight with Jack Craver.
I wasn't trying to pick a fight. I was just joking around with him, but I also don't believe him. But that's okay. All right.
So let's get to the state. I consider you, and you tell me if I'm characterizing you incorrectly. You have a perspective, and that is that urbanism is the way for cities to go. Is that fair? Like high level.
Yeah.
You advocate for urbanism, more dense, transit, walkable, all the things you talked about. But you, at the same time, you criticize the state for things like revenue caps, bringing down the 3.5. And your argument is, essentially local control. So what is given those two dynamics, and that you guys have had quite a bit of success in Austin on the land use front and the transit front. Well, we're going to kill that, but on the land use and transit front, what do you think about the state stepping in and saying, and telling cities, you can't have minimum lot sizes, you can't have ADU restrictions, some of these things that are happening at the state level, to tell cities what they can and cannot do? How do those things comport with you?
Well, local control, I don't really have a coherent philosophy or set of principles when it comes to local city control versus state control. I'm not going to pretend to have concrete principles on that. I think that my beef with the revenue caps is I just think that it's bad for cities, and I think that it will significantly erode the public domain in cities and reduce the quality of life and make it much harder for cities to address the big problems they're facing, whether it's homelessness, crime, education, etc. When it comes to state level reforms on land use, I don't have a problem with the state of Texas telling cities that there are certain land use regulations that are really damaging to affordability, to all kinds of stuff. I think it's happening in other states around the country. In Oregon or California, it's more liberal lawmakers who are recognizing that the state has an interest in making its big cities, its big job centers, its big economic centers as accessible as possible. And it's not fair for San Francisco or LA or Portland to make it as hard as possible for people to live there. And so it makes sense to me that these states are stepping in and saying, you guys got to make things a little bit more fair. You got to let more people live. You got to allow cheaper forms of housing in your cities. If that's to the extent that that's happening in Texas, I think it's a good thing. It's one of the few good things happening at the state level. You asked earlier, Michael, about the things that I'll miss about Austin. Well, I think this is a great city. I have lots of great friends here that I'm going to miss, but I will say I am committed to coming back on a quarterly basis, so spending like 3 to 4 weeks a year here, and to meet with sources and whatnot. In terms of what has happened in Austin over the last 10 years politically, what has been done and what hasn't been done, again, the land use reforms that we've gotten done have been great. I'm disappointed though about transportation. You're right. Like I think that light rail, I think there's a good chance light rail will never happen in Austin. And I think that that's sad, to the extent that that's a uniquely Austin tragedy versus an American tragedy. I don't know. I think that across this country in America, for some reason, we don't know how to build mass transit efficiently. And it's a big problem that, it's very much in the news these days with that book Abundance, right? That's the kind of stuff they're talking about, is how come the Japanese and Germans and French can build this stuff and we can't? What's going on? And so I think that Austin is becoming more affordable, has become more affordable in the last few years, and that's great. My concern is that we're just sort of going in the model of Houston, sorry, Charles, which is, cheaper housing, but still pretty shit transportation.
Now,
We
Charles
have
is
great
mad.
transportation. It's not the transportation some would like, but we have great transportation. It just takes you a little long to. I mean, it's a big city.
Oh, Houston does not have good transportation. If you did, you would use it, and you don't. You know that you don't.
Take the red line all the time.
No, you don't. You're lying.
How would you know if I take the train? Please.
Because I know when you're lying, and you are right now. You do not take it all the time. Maybe you do it to go to the Astros game, and that's it.
No, I do it whenever I go downtown because parking downtown is a little bit of a nightmare, and it's easy to get to City Hall by taking the train.
Nope, probably didn't.
Well, I will say no. I'm not actually casting Houston's light rail, and this is a little bit outdated, but Houston's light rail is actually pretty efficient, and it was built in a way, like my understanding is like it's actually kind of a model for how, if you are a car-centric city trying to build light rail, Houston did the right thing in building the rail near its dense population centers, so to maximize ridership, and so I think it's been pretty efficient. But my point is that Austin is continuing to sprawl, and we're going to expand I-35, which I think is a disaster. And I just, I would like to see a more walkable, livable city.
But we're so spread out. I got to push back on one thing you said though, because the housing prices in Austin have not come down as a result of land use changes. They've come down as a result of higher interest rates and housing prices across the country coming down, correct? Or that's the main factor.
Well, I agree with you that the recent land use reforms are not the cause of the big drops in rents. I think that what caused the big drops in rents was a glut of supply of multifamily construction throughout the region, and a lot of those apartments going up, they were built before the code changes were made. They were built in areas where there's no controversy, right? You're building way out in sprawl country. So no, I agree. But I also am happy that we have made code changes that I think will also help affordability in the long term.
And you're supportive of the horrible, racist, xenophobic, anti-Semitic Republicans up at the legislature helping you out with that goal.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
I don't actually believe that about them, but I was character. I can't speak.
Characterizing?
Yeah.
Well,
what a liberal would
can't
say.
possibly be anti-Semitic if they support Israel, right?
I actually put that on our list to talk to you about because there's some very interesting, and I want to take a segue right now to that.
Yes. Let's talk about anti-Semitism and Israel, and
yes.
Let's let Charles put his foot in his mouth.
So there's been, over the past couple of years, there's been, the Republicans or the conservatives have been pushing back on the woke agenda and on shutting down free speech and censoring people and all of this. And we've got to say before this, Jack, you are Jewish, correct?
No.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were.
Michael has been telling everybody that you're Jewish. So there's a
for some reason I thought you were, and I thought we'd be in a safe space. Okay. So the right has been talking about, anti-wokeness and all this stuff. And then in a hearing just 2 days ago in front of the Congress of the United States of America, the Republicans invited this testimony, and the guy said, and I quote, "It's not enough to be not enough to be anti-Semitic or anti-Semitic. You have to be like actively anti-Semitic taking the language.
He's not saying you have to be actively anti-Semitic.
Actively anti-Semitic.
Yeah, it's like you can't be. We'll do a little pause for
the kiddo.
Pause for children. It's all right.
So
I've been there.
What's the book that from the left that the Republicans were criticizing where they said it's not enough to be it's not enough to be against or not racist. You have to be actively anti-racist.
Ibram X. Kendi.
Correct. And now the Republicans are saying it's not enough to just not be anti-Semitic. You have to be actively anti-Semitic.
It's not. No one is saying that you should be anti-Semitic.
What am I saying wrong here?
Republicans are not saying it's not enough.
Anti-Semitic is bad. Anti-Semitic is good. So whenever you're referencing good, say anti.
That's what I said.
No, you're saying that Republicans are saying it's not enough to be anti-Semitic, as if that's a good thing and like that's what they want you to be.
No. What I'm trying to say is it's not enough to be just not anti-Semitic.
Yes.
I'm not anti-Semitic. That's not enough. You have to be actively anti-Semitic. That's correct,
Okay.
right?
Yes,
that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Here it is. Here's the audio. I mean, to play it, I'll play it. All right, we'll get it.
Being anti-Semitic entail?
It's a good question.
It is not enough for individuals or institutions to merely claim they are not anti-Semitic. It is not enough for people, especially public figures, to be neutral or not be anti-Semitic. One must be anti-Semitic.
It's not enough to just be.
Yeah, we don't need that commentary. So that's what you're talking about. The not anti-Semitic. You kept leaving out the not, and so it was maybe
essentially it's not enough to not hate Jewish people. You have to actively work against those who hate Jewish people.
Yeah. Anyhow, what was your question for Jack?
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
Yeah,
as a Jewish man, what do you think about this?
I think that this is nothing short of McCarthyism that we've seen in the last couple months. I certainly was not a fan of the affinity for censorship that some on the left gravitated towards in recent years, especially on university campuses. And this is just really. This is crazy. I mean, this is a mass censorship campaign being waged on behalf of a foreign country. And it doesn't, I mean, it's the fact that it's being waged on behalf of a foreign country makes it particularly absurd, but it doesn't matter who it's being waged on behalf of. And actually not even just a foreign country, more specifically, a one large donor, Miriam Adelson. This, you know, and it's not just censorship. I mean, it's people in getting shoved into unmarked vans because they wrote an op-ed critical of Israel. It's crazy.
Did that happen? Someone got thrown into an unmarked van?
Yeah, a Tufts University grad student who wrote an op-ed criticizing Israel got apprehended on the streets by agents in masks.
Oh,
that's crazy.
That's what you get for going to Tufts.
But yeah, so I agree. I mean, I think it's bananas. I can't quite find any logic to make it make sense other than, yeah, a donor gave, but like, I don't know that quite finishes the circle for me, but it doesn't make any sense. I can't believe how hypocritical these people are. And it's especially like some of the folks who rode that wave who have now just 180'd and don't realize that they're doing the exact same thing as the left that they criticized and that they, you know, became popular criticizing. It's crazy. I don't understand what the mental block is, but I don't know. Charles or Brad, you guys have thoughts on this thing that we're talking about?
What, Charles?
I don't. But if Brad wants to go, he can.
You don't have any thoughts on this at all? We're on a podcast where you share your thoughts about current issues and events and topics, and you don't have any thoughts on this.
I don't have a thought to offer on this very subject right this second.
It's interesting. Someone has some thoughts that they don't want to share in case some guys in masks show up to his door and throw him in an unmarked van. That's what it sounds like to me. Yeah, no, it's total bullshit. I mean, Israel is, I don't, this is not a situation that I want to be in. I would rather, we focus on, I've said this before, like, why can't we just focus on us? And why does Israel, why does Kristi Noem go up there and say that they're God's chosen people? She was an elected official. Now she's a part of the executive cabinet. And she's talking about some people, like a particular group of people being God's chosen, and everyone else is not God's chosen. Kind of rubs me the wrong way. Like, you should maybe just leave that out of your political philosophy if you're going to be in public office, I think. Right.
I mean, that's kind of a staple. That's something that Christians say a lot.
Sure. And I don't think that if Christians say it's one thing, if you're in office and you say it's another.
Yeah. You should bring your religious values to office.
Sorry, what?
You don't think you should bring your values to office?
It depends on what your values are.
Well, no, I don't think that's
if there was a Muslim that was elected and they wanted to do female genital mutilation, is that a value that I should accept because they're elected? No.
I don't think every Muslim wants to do that.
Yeah,
agreed. I don't think that they all do either, but that's something that a large portion of a significant portion of them wants to or do. Some section of them do. If that person gets elected, should I be like, okay, well, that's their religious belief. I have to be comfortable.
Female genital mutilation is a geographic problem, not
whatever. I don't fucking care. Yeah. Fine. A black African that's happens to be of Muslim religion. Does that make everyone?
Why are we focusing on Muslims?
Yeah, it's a Central Africa problem. Eritrea, which is 90% Christian, does a lot of female genital mutilation as well.
It doesn't fucking all right. Cool.
But your point being, if a Christian from Eritrea came in and said, we're going to do female, genital mutilation, you shouldn't bring that value to leadership, was your point. We got you.
Well, that's sort of, but whatever.
I don't disagree. If an elected official calling for female genital mutilation is very different than an elected or appointed official saying that they believe that they are God's chosen people. Like that, those are two different things.
No, you asked me about value, bringing their religious values to the office.
You're talking about literally a surgical procedure, like that someone is pushing a surgical anyway. Whatever.
Yeah, but I think the offensive part of it, Charles, is that by the obvious result is that everybody else that is not of that religion is not God's chosen people.
Yeah, I think that's obvious. I thought that was obvious.
Well, I'm not personally offended by that. Every religion says that. Like, if you are,
I'm not personally. I don't lose any. I'm not like crying about it, like writing Kristi Noem letters, except for great Brazilian blowout. Looks great, girl. Keep going. Looks fantastic. I write those letters.
I mean, the interesting thing about the sort of evangelical right's relationship with Israel is that it's a little bit schizophrenic. On one hand, they'll say things like they're God's chosen people, they're protecting Israel. But at the end of the day, a lot of them will say, no, Jews go to hell. And they're just protecting Israel for when Jesus comes back. It's for some reason, it's important that the Jews protect Israel. They're like better protectors of Israel for Christ's, when Christ comes back to earth.
I don't know. No, I think that's an element of it. We've talked about it here. They don't maybe agree with me, but I think there's definitely something there that has to do with the religious aspects, Jesus coming back, that being the Holy Land. There's something strange about that for sure.
Michael, we know that you want to say aliens.
Well, I mean, that's a whole nother subject, but I think we should move on from this topic.
No way. Charles was warmed up.
So we touch on this real quick. We touch on this. I want to kind of close the loop on it. So you said that you don't think Project Connect's happening. Why, from your take, do you think it's not going to happen?
Well, the light rail portion of Project Connect, I think, is a pretty heavy lift now. I just think that I don't know. It's like, I would say it's like a 40% chance of happening. I don't know. It's like, I just feel like there's so many obstacles at this point. There's the state legislature. There's the Trump administration. because we do need federal money for the rail line. And historically, the Federal Transit Administration it's a pretty technocratic, apolitical institution that awards grants based on a pretty strict set of criteria. But in these musky days, I wouldn't count on on things like that continuing. So it just seems like there's a lot of obstacles out there. That's my
so why doesn't the city acknowledge that and take a different approach? Like $3.5 billion for 9 miles of rail, that's not happening. It's not happening.
Well, the thing
from
is,
the feds.
Well, I again, I think it's likely that it won't happen, but I can't speak in absolutes. It might still happen. Like I really don't know. But the thing is that like the city, like these things are so inflexible. Like this isn't like, and this is the nature of government, is you're sort of confined by all these political boundaries. So the voters approved a plan with light rail in it, and okay, shit, there's a cost overrun. We got to pare it back. There's just like, it's just very hard to be very flexible and just be like, okay, guys, it looks like things have gotten a little complicated. Instead of light rail, we're going to do bus rapid transit. It's just, I mean, and the thing is, they have so many potential adversaries, right? From at the state legislature, they've got people suing that, finding every excuse to sue them, right? So like one of the lawsuits over Project Connect accuses them of misleading the voters because the rail plan now is much smaller than what was discussed in 2020. And so like the people who are doing that lawsuit, they say that they would support an alternative like bus rapid transit, but you can bet your ass that if Cap Metro comes out and says, okay, we're just going to do bus rapid transit, then there would be another lawsuit accusing them of misleading the voters, and we need the money back, and we need to take another vote. It's very hard to maneuver.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's two fundamental flaws with it. One, the financing mechanism that they propose is illegal. I told you that at the time. After the election, I have our text messages screenshotted. They can't issue bonds without voter approval. I told you this in 2021, early 2021. The second thing is they didn't do their diligence when they put those fancy maps and those renderings in that downtown tunnel, and they sold voters a bill of goods, and it's coming back to bite them. You can say that was well-intentioned, but it's clear that they were telling voters what they needed to pass it, not what was realistic, in my view. So we're maybe splitting hairs. Did they lie to voters? Maybe they were hopeful that would happen, but I don't know that they actually thought realistically we're actually going to be able to deliver all of this. And there was a rumor at the time, I don't know if it's true, that number 7.1 was not the cost. It was a poll tested number based on what voters would approve. That's a rumor I heard. And if that kind of shenanigans is going on, I don't feel bad for them at all.
I don't really, if you're looking for a staunch defense of our transit leadership, you're not going to get it from me. I am a supporter of mass transit, and I really, really would love to see light rail in Austin, because I think, I think that the route that's proposed would work really well, especially if we get the land use right. But I've been very disappointed with the management of Project Connect. And I think that the leadership has been very schizophrenic. Right. At the beginning, right, we approved this plan, and then they spend a year. We approved this very ambitious plan, and then Austin Transit Partnership, which is this governmental entity created to oversee Project Connect, they spend a year doing like public outreach and research, and then they come back with this plan that's like even more ambitious. They're like, actually, we're going to tunnel all the way under South Congress. you get a tunnel, you get a tunnel, tunnels everywhere. And then they're like, oh shit, that's so expensive. And they freak everybody out. And then they go in the complete opposite direction and start cutting like crazy and give us this tiny little route. And I think that they probably cut weight. I think it's likely that they cut more than they needed to because they went in the opposite direction and focused on under promising and over delivering. And, you know, so no, I'm not feeling good about things, but you know, I mean, I support mass transit, but I can't vouch for everybody who's in charge of building mass transit. Just like anything else, I support parks, but I don't think every park management system is well managed. I support the police. I don't think every police department is well managed.
What does it mean to support mass transit? What does that mean? You're a mass transit supporter.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
I don't think so. I mean, I lived in Japan and they had mass transit, and I thought it was really great. I don't support Project Connect, and I don't support. I think Cat Metro is pretty poorly run here in Austin, and I don't really support that. You know, a bus here, some buses, okay, but light rail and like, you know, really force it, like all of the stuff that the city of Austin does to try to force people out of their cars. I don't support any of that. But I mean, when I was in Japan, I supported I thought it was great, all the trains and transit they had there. That was cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, am I a supporter? Yeah. I mean, when I go to New York, I might ride the subway. I think that's cool. I don't rent a car.
So there's
a difference between supporting it and saying like, we're going to implement this in the city at all costs. That's also like, that's a fanatic.
Right. So there's certainly.
Is it self-explanatory, Charles?
I still think it's self-explanatory. Yeah, I do think what a transit supporter is self-explanatory. You use transit in Japan because it is a popular form of public transit in Japan because it's a popular form of transportation.
Well, the country is built around it.
For the expansion of transit in Japan, then you'd be a public transit supporter. If you were advocating for the expansion of it in New York, or even in Austin, which you just didn't do. You said you like a couple more buses, but not really.
No, I didn't say I want a couple more buses. I said I'm okay with some buses. It's fine, but everything the city of Austin is doing to try to get us into buses is bullshit.
Okay, well, all that to say, I think it makes it very clear that you are on the not transit supporter side of the spectrum.
I don't know. I don't think so.
I think that the way that we built, I think that especially after World War II, American cities went all in on the automobile. And I think that was a mistake. And I support unwinding and undoing some of that car dependence. And I think that in a place like Austin, I support efforts to offer people other alternatives, and not all of that doesn't mean that you can propose anything and I'll support it. And I'll give you a good example. The Red Line, our existing commuter rail, is not good. It's a bad investment. It's an extremely inefficient form of transportation. I mean, the per passenger subsidy is something outrageous. It's
very large.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of blown away. There's so much nuance here that I was expecting this to be self-explanatory. Thank you, Jack, for answering the question in a nuanced and meaningful way. I'm sorry, Charles, for asking a stupid question.
He just literally explained everything that you
and some nuance behind it. So you wanted to be an asshole, and I'm going to call you out for it, Charles. Welcome to the show.
I was not an asshole.
Welcome to the show.
It was still very self-explanatory, but
it's not, obviously. I would have never guessed that Jack Craver was against the Red Line.
That was surprising to me.
That's breaking news here on BCM podcast, and it's going to be all the talk of Austin Twitter that Jack Craver, noted Project Connect, train supporter, loves trains, was devastated when the Zilker Zephyr was out of commission for years.
I have never written a goddamn word about the fucking Zilker Zephyr. I don't give a shit about the Zilker Zephyr, and I resent all coverage that I see of the Zilker Zephyr.
And then he breaks the news that he's against the Red Line? Charles.
I have written numerous times, I've highlighted the inefficiency of the Red Line. And the Red Line, the Red Line is this sort of, I mean, it's a quintessential like sort of Kirk Watson type thing. It was this sort of it was the product of this ugly political compromise between suburban Republican legislators back in the aughts and Cap Metro, where we don't have to get into the whole history, and I'm not an expert on it, but it oftentimes these commuter rail projects to the suburbs are extremely inefficient. And that stands in stark contrast to what was proposed for Project Connect, which is an urban rail line that is serving the where there's already very, very high bus ridership, and where there's already high density of residents and residential employment density.
Jack, if the red line were on the ballot tomorrow, would you vote to keep it or to get rid of it?
It depends what.
There's no depending. We're not going to make this nuance. We're going to make it straightforward. Did they destroy it or they keep it as is?
That's a good question. I would have to see what would happen with the money that would be saved.
It would go to the BCM podcast.
But there's other investments. There's other stuff that Cap Metro has done that I'm also skeptical of, and for instance, there's this ride sharing program that they've been doing in recent years called Pickup, which is in certain parts of the city for $1.25 you can get door-to-door a door-to-door ride, so within the zone, the car comes to your house, picks you up, and will take you to the grocery store or whatever. And it's extremely helpful for particularly older people, I think. But again, like whether that is the best use of funds it's a good question. I mean, it requires a high subsidy. Giving somebody a ride for $1.25, that's a heavy subsidy.
I feel like that's the tagline: give someone a ride for $1.25. That works.
That's true.
Does y'all have air conditioning or no?
Does the car have air conditioner?
I think he's talking about the buses, probably.
Yeah, because we have the same service, but they don't have. They're like a 9-seater like bus mobile thing, and there's no AC.
Ugh.
Wow.
Gross. That's like they need to pay me money to ride that. There's no AC.
No, but I mean it's not meant for long distances. Like it's from a couple minutes. But
I don't care. In Houston and how humid it is, it's disgusting down there. All y'all stink. It's so nasty in Houston.
Okay, all right. Oh. It's not, but all right.
It's gross. Anyhow.
All right, we're gonna wrap up here. I got one more question for Jack.
Uh-oh. It's gonna be a good one, Jack. It's a curveball. Hey, by the way, Kirk Watson listens to the show, so be careful, Jack, what you say about him.
He doesn't
it's not about Kirk
Watson.
Anyway. Yeah.
He what?
Kirk Watson does not talk to me.
Oh, his staff does. Max does, I bet.
I can talk to them off the record a little bit, but I don't,
Uh-oh.
So in your view, who's the leader of the Democratic Party right now?
Oh, shit.
Oh, nationally?
Yeah. I went way curveball.
Is it
I have no idea. I can tell you the people I like. I like.
No, not who you like. Who's the leader? Because who I like may not be the leader.
I don't know who the leader of the Democratic Party is.
The answers are either David Hogg, AOC, or I don't know. Who else, Michael? Give me some other ones.
I mean, definitely the person who has, the ones that have the most, I feel like are the most significant right now are Bernie and AOC. I mean, they're the ones that are going around the country and, have something to say, which you can't say for most of the rest of them.
Bernie and AOC.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I think this moment was made for Bernie Sanders. It's too bad he's so old, because his entire worldview, in my opinion, is being confirmed right now. I mean, we have the richest man on the earth, running the government. I mean, it completely fulfills everything that Bernie Sanders has ever said about government and wealth and American society.
You're referring to Elon Musk and running the government.
Yeah.
Doge.
Hmm.
Because he's a loyal. You can't like getting rid of government waste and fraud and abuse. You can't like that. It's a really bad position to be in. But I hear you.
You know, the thing is that I just think that this political moment is particularly obscene. I don't know what, you know, there's absolutely no idealism. There's no objective in any of this. There is, you know, they're not telling us, you know, we're you know, they're crashing the economy and slashing services, and they're not offering us what, you know, am I going to get a check in the mail for all of this? If
I hope so.
If you know,
No, you don't, Michael.
if grandma can't get her Social Security check, if kids are getting thrown off Medicaid, what are we getting in exchange? Like this isn't even about, there's no talk about efficiency. It's just slashing and burning. It's so cynical and it's so naked.
Well, I mean, you know, he's slashing and burning, getting rid of legitimate fraud is, I don't know if that's cynical. I think that's a positive thing. I hope that your grandmother continues to get her Social Security check. I don't want her to lose that. I don't think she will, but you know, if that happens, not good.
Did you see Howard? Did you see our Commerce Secretary's interview the other day where he said, well, you know, if my mother-in-law doesn't get her Social Security check, she's not going to be worried. It'll just come next month. She won't worry about it.
Well, of course, because he's probably very wealthy.
Right. Is he saying that if she misses one check, she's going to be okay? I mean, I'm not trying, like, that's stupid. She should continue to get it, but it's not that she's never going to, she'll get it next month, he said. I don't know. I didn't see this.
His point was the only people complaining about not getting their Social Security checks are fraudsters, because normal people won't be that worried about not getting their Social Security check, despite the fact that a huge percentage of our senior population is completely dependent on Social Security.
Yeah. I agree with you, Jack, that with all this fraud that we should be getting checks. And Michael says that he agrees, but he doesn't really. He thinks that we should just get a fraction of what we are owed.
Well, if there actually is a tremendous amount of waste, fraud, and abuse, which is this term,
there is, you know, that there is in the federal government. There's no question. It's there.
Sure. But I don't think that, you know, just slashing, you know, that they're already talking about just slashing, you know, $800 billion from Medicaid. You know, this is just the culmination of an 80-year campaign to undo the New Deal. I mean, that's what's happened. It's
no. I think again, I don't have a lot of sympathy. I think the lack of transparency, all of the lies, the shady stuff they've been doing, all this USAID crap, like they put themselves in this position where a large majority of the country is supportive of slashing government, because they've been lying to us and not telling us what they're doing and doing things that actually aren't good for us for so long. And I mean, I'm all for it. And yes, I want to check. I'll take a $5,000 check. I'd also take a $10,000 check. You're probably right. You're probably right.
Shit. All that's happening, we're going to get another regressive tax bill that disproportionately, you know, this is just Matt, you know, I'll say this, Matt Iglesias, I remember before the election, he had a great tweet where he said, you know, whiteboarding, and this was before we knew Elon was going to be so influential, but it was whiteboarding some ideas for the efficiency panel. And it just said, more money for us, fuck you. And that perfectly summed this up. There's no normal American is going to benefit from this. And they're, you know, slashing 60,000 jobs from the Veterans Administration. Like, so many people are going to get so royally fucked by this. And, you know, what's so disgusting to me, look, government can get bloated, and sometimes you do have to do layoffs. Absolutely. But the cruelty and the complete apathy for the suffering being caused to all of these middle class and blue collar people who are just getting tossed out on their asses is just disgusting.
I don't know. I think it's a little more nuanced than that, because I think that there is things like, I don't know, what was the list of expenditures that USAID was doing, just as an example. You're using the most grotesque on one side, I'm using the most grotesque on the other side. But had we had an era of transparency about what we were doing, and the government and the institutions were open about their expenditures, what they're doing, and allowed us to get in there and find out and cut the things that we don't like and keep the things that we do like, we wouldn't be in this position where nobody trusts anything they're doing, and there's a huge momentum to slash major government programs. So I hear you, but it had to happen. And I don't want the bad cases that you're explaining to happen to people. And I do have sympathy for that. But like at some point, this thing needed to get opened up. And Elon Musk seems to be the only one with the nerve to take the criticism that he's getting from the left to even try.
But he's not, there's no evidence that this is driven by any sincere desire for actual efficiency. This is just slashing and burning. I mean, this is, and they're making tons of mistakes too. I mean, comical mistakes. I mean, and that's the thing, is like, there's no transparency in this process either.
I disagree. But we could spend a whole nother show talking about this topic alone.
Yeah,
Charles, you're going to say something.
Well, I was going to say, no, they are making mistakes, I think, because they're moving so fast. But at the end of the day, I agree that seeing these stories of people being fired and this being cut and that being cut and this community center not getting their money, it's all very sad. And you don't want that to happen to anybody. But why are we in this situation? Because we let government go for so long unchecked that it became not the safety net that it should be with just safety net programs, but in and of itself became a safety net for employment for thousands, tens of thousands of people, dependent, organizations fully dependent on their funding from government, when that should have never been the case. And now we're scaling that back and trying to right size it. And unfortunately, a lot of people are hurt in the process. But the only reason we got to the point in this process is because we sat idly by and let government do all of this for so long.
Well, I would just say, again, I'm sure there's plenty of bloat in government, but the federal government has the same number of employees now that it had in the Johnson administration. So this idea that, in recent decades, it's just, bloated beyond, we have the same level of government that we had when we were a much smaller country. If people want, I understand there are sincere arguments for a leaner federal government. That's fine, but that's not what, that's not, I don't see any, there's no surgery going on here. This is just a fucking beating.
I agree. There's no surgery. I think a more surgical approach would be better. I'm glad to see them do something, and I'll take what I can get, but I do agree that a more surgical approach would be better.
Burn it.
The sentiment that I'm talking
All right.
about.
Well, I thank you guys for having me on the show.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks for coming on. This is a good place to end. Thanks, Jack. Tune in next week. See ya.
Later.
Hey, how can everybody find you?
Yes, please go to austinpolitics.net, and you can, if you sign up for the free version of the newsletter, I'll hook you up with a couple weeks of full access. And yes.
Awesome.
There you go. Cool. Go sign up.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
And are you ending it, or what's happening? Are we saying bye?
No one said
I gotta
okay.